500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the...
Hello. Hey, Glenn.
Hello.
Can you hear me okay?
Answer.
Yeah. Hello.
It's all right. Keep talking.
Oh, okay. What can I say?
Yeah, no, that's better now.
That's it.
Okay. Okay.
Doesn't normally a problem for you, Glenn?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. Where I am I'm at the office now. We don't get great reception here, but I won't move around too much.
Deep in the deep woods, are you?
Oh yeah, yeah. So deep, I'm out the other end.
Thanks for talking to us tonight, Glenn. Really appreciate it.
Oh, all cool. Yep, not a problem.
He hasn't talked to us yet.
Yeah.
Well, so far,
I may
so
just
good.
hang up if I get offended.
Now it's just Steve's got some final reports now. He said he might join us, but he probably won't. But that just keeps us with the tradition that when we have a special guest, he's not allowed to join.
Okay.
So that means that you are a special guest, not just a guest.
So you don't want him to embarrass you, is what you're saying.
We don't need him coming on here and asking smart questions and making good points and making us look bad.
Well, in the last interview we did with Glenn, we both re-listened to it, and Joe hogged most of the interview, and then there was like one question Steve got in, and then before he even got to ask it, Glenn answered it.
Yeah.
Still there?
Yep.
Yeah, still there.
You're wafting in and out. I'm getting little beeps and...
Okay.
Is that better? Can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's perfect.
Yeah, I'll go into the car park. Yeah, there we go. That's better. Yeah, we're cutting edge here at Frew.
Is it just the black spot, or is it, or did
it's a warehouse complex, and it's all like concrete and steel, and it's yeah.
Now I remember, I remember Dudley saying that he had to take phone calls out in the car park, so I guess
people ring up to put in orders, and it always cuts off just before you get the credit card details.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, that wouldn't be good. So, are you there working, or are you there just trying to catch up?
Yeah. I'm yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I think we'll just get straight into it. As per normal, we'll just waffle on a little bit, then we'll introduce you, and then we'll just go from there.
Well, look, as per normal, you waffle on a lot, but anyway, that's another story. I think our last one was only 30 or 40 minutes.
Of waffle?
No, it was longer than that, wasn't it?
No, it was about an hour and a half.
I don't know.
But a good 30, 40 minutes of it was just waffle.
No, I was talking about the movie reviews.
Oh, right.
All right. Well, we'll get straight into it. Okay, so we'll count down. 3, 2, 1.
500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, "I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die." The Phantom, the ghost who walks. The Phantom, enemies beware. The Phantom's always there, but you won't find the Phantom. He finds you.
Welcome and g'day to episode 85 of the Phantom Chronicle Chamber X-Band podcast. You know who we are, and we are getting very, very excited. It's getting close to Christmas, which means lots of Phantom presents for everyone. And so, as for all our listeners, we thought we'll give you a Christmas present as well. with a very special guest tonight. But before we get into that, let's open up with Dan. How are you, Dan?
I'm really good, Jermaine. I've had a fantastic day today. Really had some good karma come my way. People who see on Facebook would see that today's the day that all of my stuff got returned by the police. So big thumbs up to the Queensland Police Force. Anyone out there who's on the one of the boys in blue in Queensland, thank you very much for that. And capping it off with a good conversation tonight, I hope.
That's good. So as we have a special guest tonight, that means we haven't allowed Stephen on board with the podcast. No, just jokes. He's
Poor
just
old Steve.
poor old Steve. He's the butt of every joke. As a lot of teachers would be aware, this time of the year can be quite busy, and he's been caught up with a couple of last-minute reports and stuff that has to be done. He may make a little cameo halfway through it, but if he doesn't, cheerio to Steve. And we will think of you, maybe, a little bit. But let's get on to our interview. So now this will be one of the first times that we have done a return interview. So it's special in that regards. Last time we spoke to him, he was just a regular fan. But now he's a little bit more than just a regular fan. He is a joint owner of Frew and publisher, and still a fan. How are you, Glenn?
Yeah, good. Still a fan. Yep.
It hasn't beaten you down yet, Glenn?
Oh, it's tried. It got me in a hammerlock last week, but I knew a few manoeuvres to get out.
That's good. So we last spoke to you literally almost 2 years ago to the date. The last podcast
really?
came out, I think it was the 20th of December 2015. Now,
Yep.
when we spoke about that, you talked to us after the podcast, not during the podcast, about the fact that you were looking at buying Frew Publications. Now, there was a turbulent couple of months after that.
Yeah. Look, basically, we threw our hat in. Jim years ago had spoken to me and also spoken to Renee, and after Jim's passing, as you know, Steve Shepherd stepped in, and Judith still ran the company. And during the couple of years that they were all there, she got everything tidied up and again to Renee, and he asked if I was still interested. I said, sure, let's see what we can. He's also bidding, and one of those other parties got the go-ahead from King Features, but not from Judith Shepherd. Essentially, she for it to happen, it needed to not only pick up the license from King, but also buy Frew from Judith, the existing owner. So that didn't happen. So that person pulled out, and it then became available to us. And that was last, it was February last year, I think, February 2016, I think, from memory. Yeah. And during that period, there was, as you may remember, there was about a month of flux, I guess you'd call it, where nobody knew what was happening, and we couldn't go ahead until both the purchase of the company and the transferal of the license came to us, and so it just sat there in limbo. As all the readers and fans out there were getting very impatient and very scared.
It was a very tense time
and,
for people who just wanted to go down to the newsagent and pick up their comic book. I can only imagine how tense it must have been for you, waiting on tenterhooks to see which way it would fall.
I think poor old Dudley copped the most of it. He was still there, and people ringing up and blaming him. Someone even said that he'd spotted him at the market selling artwork or something like that.
Oh dear.
Yeah. But it was just, it was funny. It was, all of people's fears and paranoias came out, and once we signed on the dotted line, that disappeared. Everyone was happy.
To be honest, I think it was actually good because it kind of woke a few people up and realised, well, not having the fandom comic in Australia is a real possibility. It's not a given, and it made us probably appreciate Frew a lot more than what a lot of us have probably had in the past.
Yeah, I think you're right, and certainly the first two issues that we popped out when we started was still, they were already been prepared by Dudley. They were ready to go, and they weren't special issues in any particular way. It was just a regular story, and I think the annual was the next one. And they sold really well, simply because people were happy that that Frew was back in business, and showed their support by buying the comic,
Yeah. So so it's. I know it was a stressful time for us because I know we were getting a lot of questions as well. So I can only imagine what you guys were getting, especially Dudley.
That's what happens when you set yourself up as oracles. You see, people will ask you the questions.
I don't know if we call ourselves oracles. Maybe as a joke.
Would you like me to go back and read some of our messenger conversations, Jim?
No. Look, maybe the word wasn't oracles, but it sounded similar. Anyway.
Very fair call.
So Glenn, just for those who have come in late, would you be able to just give us a 1 or 2 minute update on who you are as a fan, how you became a fan, and stuff like that? Obviously, for the full story, you can go back to episode 33, but... So were you always a fan?
Yeah, read it as a kid, like most Australian boys growing up in that time. I'm talking late 50s, early 60s. It was, as I've often said before, the Phantom comic back then was ubiquitous. It was just everywhere. You'd sit down and wait for a haircut in the barbers. There was a stack of them there. Doctors' waiting rooms, dentists' waiting rooms, service stations, fetes, school fetes, everywhere. And so, it's probably fair to say that most Australian kids would have had some kind of contact with the comic while they were growing up in the 50s and 60s. Show bags. And I became interested in drawing comics in my teens, which is not such an unusual thing, I think, for a young boy. And when I decided that I'd like to do it for real, when I became a commercial artist, as I was called, it was pretty much the only game in town. If you wanted to get your work published in an Australian comic, Frew were the only people doing them at that stage. It was kind of before the boom in the Australian independent comic industry, I suppose you could call it. And I just started doing covers.
And
always a fan.
Did you imagine at that time, Glenn, even in your wildest dreams, that as you're starting to do covers and did that one story, Search for Byron, that you might ever go on to own the company?
No, it never crossed my mind. I mean, and to be honest, they were looking at the way it was being done back then in the, I guess, the late 90s, early 2000s, when I was still doing covers for Frew. Thoughts did cross my mind about perhaps I would have done some of that differently. That the whole policy that was adopted about tracing panels and using them for covers, I think, was a little cheap, to be honest. I mean, okay, what's inside is a reprint. It's reprinted from an American newspaper strip or a Swedish comic, well, at least back then it was. And for you to sell it to the Australian reader, you need to at least acknowledge that reader by creating something new for him and giving him a new cover.
I think everyone
that's my
yeah. I think every fan had the dream or the what they would do if they ever got to fill in Jim's shoes. So I don't think you were alone in that one.
Yeah, look, it wasn't an ambition. It certainly wasn't something that I had to do. It just kind of, I guess, fell in my lap. But yeah, certainly there was some. There were some moments where I'd think to myself, well, why didn't this happen or why didn't that happen? There were certainly, while I was floating around, because we did a few conventions together and a few little joint ventures, I guess, in promoting some of these comics. Yeah, I remember saying to myself on a few occasions, well, there's an opportunity there to do this, and whatever. And Jim pretty well had a rule book that he adhered to, and he was quite a canny astute businessman. He knew exactly what needed to be done to get the comic out there and to get it sold, and to just continue that. And there was no risk taking whatsoever. And that's good. That's fair. But by the time we took it over, it really needed a good shake, I think, in my opinion.
Yeah. I was just going to say, you certainly can't fault the way that Jim Shepard ran the comic from the late 80s to, for that first 15 or 20 years.
Not at all.
The way that he did it, I think you're right.
Well, his policy of...
Yeah.
Well, he just got, in the words of his son, he just got tired, he just got old. And that's understandable. The guy was in his, I think, 70s, towards the end there, when he was still doing it. And
so has it given you a fresh, what would be the way, a fresh, I can't even think of the word now, like seeing you now, the man who's doing it all, having to come up with the ideas and run the risks and, having to keep everything, ideas are giving you a fresh appreciation of what he's done in that for 30 odd years. Sure.
Yeah, and certainly a lot of his policies were really sound policies. Keep it simple and don't change the formula, because as soon as you do, you're going to start losing people. And to a small degree, it's happening now. We to keep the business going, to make sure the comic's still being published in 10, 15 years' time, we need to somehow expand the market and introduce new readers. But by the same token, there's still a lot of old readers out there, guys who have been with us for 50, 60 years, been reading it as a kid, who have been collecting since day dot, and don't want that they want a single issue, but they want it to be exactly the same as what it was when they were growing up, because they have it's a nostalgia thing for them. They want to sit down and read a Phantom comic and get that warm, fuzzy feeling that they used to get when they were a kid. And I understand that, and to that extent, we're continuing the replica issues with the annual, and we're continuing the collector's replica series, and throwing in the older stories into the giant size Phantom as well, just to try and it's a tip of the hat to those guys, just to try and maintain some kind of balance between the old and the new.
And I know Jermaine is going to want to bend your ear later on about the replica series in particular, but that's part of keeping that balance. That's part of keeping the balance, I suppose, between the
yeah. It's absolutely necessary. We put it out there through the trying to get some kind of response with the social media is useless, because most of these guys, these older readers don't even have a computer. They just walk down to their newsagent once every couple of weeks and take it home, and their only connection with Frew as the company is through the publisher's note or the forum. And to be brutal about it all, in 10, 15 years' time, a lot of those guys won't be with us anymore. So we have to make sure we're still around.
Yeah, for sure. So you definitely do need to be trying to pick up the new readers, because, as you say, those rusted on readers are not going to be around forever.
Yeah, and man, it's hard, because the perception is that the Phantom, and it's a deserved perception in a lot of ways, is your granddad's hero.
Yeah. So what are some of the? So obviously we've got the Kid Phantom. That's probably the obvious one that to get the next gen. How's that going? Do you feel that's working? Have you got numbers?
Yeah. Look, it's going well. It's selling, and that's the main thing. But we still need to get it to a much wider audience. There was a problem with issue 3. I won't go into all of it, but just a few deaths in the family, and a few other setbacks that Paul, the artist, had to go through, and it's behind schedule. But having said that, it went to the printer last Friday, so that'll be out within the first couple of weeks of January. And so once that's out,
not quite in time for Christmas then.
Yeah, we really need. No. We've got the premium that's going into it is a little enamel badge, which I think Jermaine's seen, and that's on its way from Hong Kong now. It won't be here till Christmas, so it's got to be thrown into the. It's a bagged issue. It'll be thrown into the bag and off to Gordon and Gotch. I think the first week of January, all going well.
Cool. Well, my son Gus is going to love a little enamel badge, so that sounds really cool. Something that kids can wear around and promote for you and get people talking about it. It sounds cool.
And people like us will have to buy, Stephen will have to buy 3 because he'll have to buy 1 for each boy and then 1 for himself. So, there's your extra issues as well.
Yeah, well, we might need a few more than that, but it's a nice thought, Thank you.
And what about while we're on Kid Phantom, the homework film? I was lucky enough to go down and see that when it screened at QUT, and
oh yeah.
That's is that something that I know we're all waiting for it to go through and do the film festival circuit and hopefully pick up a few awards or be in line for a few awards or whatever anyway. But is that something that you hope that the broader Phantom fans and Kid Phantom fans are going to be able to see at some point?
Yeah. At the end of the day, it's going to create some interest. It's gone out and done a couple of festivals, I think student animation festivals, and has won a couple of awards, which is
cool.
good.
Awesome.
So what we'll do, we've got a Kid Phantom website coming up next year, which Jermaine knows all about, and
he plays his cards close to his chest, Jermaine. I'm learning about it for the first time.
Yeah. Yeah. But I think he's got a stacked deck anyway.
Yes.
But he on the site, well, the video will be available to look at and download. And what we'll probably do in one of the issues is have one of the you'll see them with comics. You'll have a download key so you can download it for yourself and keep it.
Fantastic.
Awesome.
Yeah,
that'll be really popular.
It's I think so. We're also in the 2018 annual, we also have a Kid Phantom face mask as an insert into the bag, which is going to be funny.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Good for parties. Everyone's sitting around with a Kid Phantom mask on.
So now we have to get 2 or 3 of those as well. Excellent.
Yeah,
but
I'm sure the masks will be available separately.
Cool. Very good.
So are you finding that these extra type of, because we've had like the posters, we had the card a couple of annuals ago and stuff, do you find, like we know and we've discussed in the podcast that the Swedish extras back in the 90s and all that were, and we enjoyed them. So is this something that you're looking forward to try and get those extra people in buying extra magazines, but also that novelty for the younger readers as well?
As long as you don't go overboard. We went through the exercise recently with the wedding special that just came out. What I wanted to do was and I did it. It's all ready to go. I did the artwork. Was if you remember the story, the wedding, everyone gets a bark. You all remember that? I'm sure.
Yeah, the bark invitation.
Yep.
Yeah, I done it. Yeah, I done like a replica of that, which I wanted to get printed out as a like a coaster, like a beer coaster, a drink coaster, and throw that into a bag. But it was the exercise was just too expensive, so it never happened. So I don't know. It may happen for their 50th wedding anniversary. Who knows?
So obviously you're saying that you got to have a bit of that you got to have a little bit of foresight, a little bit of wisdom, not to.
Yeah, there's a line because you got to remember that when they get that premium in that plastic bag, it's free for them.
But it's not free for you.
And so so all of a sudden the unit cost of the comic itself is skyrocketed, and so it becomes just untenable,
Yeah. So there's been a couple of other new innovations that yous have done. One of the ones that I've really enjoyed has been the Phantom's World. Now, was this one of your brainchilds, or how did you come upon this idea?
Well, I just when doing the the research, as I so often do, I just noticed there were so many stories that had not been published in English, and some of them lovely, beautiful art filming and fairy and all of that stuff. Some of the old 60s, 70s Italian masters, and some stuff from Brazil, from Walmir Emerald. And I thought, look, okay, Jim Shepard had this policy of reprinting everything in its original form. I would like to establish a new policy of printing every Phantom story that's ever been drawn in English. It may take us 10, 15 years, who knows, but we've started.
Yeah. So is that something that you would like your legacy to be? Like, obviously, when we think of Jim Shepard, and you said it yourself, when we think of Jim, we think of produced every Falk story in unedited form. Is this part of your legacy? Yeah,
it's something I'd like to do. I don't know if we'll ever achieve it, but it's it's a good goal to have. That's for sure.
So I was really pleased to hear you say there about the Brazilians, because one thing we've commented on in the past on Phantom's World is that it seems to be very Italian focused so far.
Yeah, we've got we'll have a Brazilian story coming up probably around halfway through next year. The next issue, we've got 3 stories sitting in the can from Angelo Todaro, brand new stories which he's drawn, which no one's seen yet, and he's getting a bit itchy to see them in print. So we're putting out the next Phantom's World will be an Angelo Todaro issue with stories from him. And the nice thing about it is that one of them is written by a Swedish writer called P.D. Anderson, who who I'm sure you've heard of. He works for Egmont, but I don't think he writes Phantom for Egmont. He writes some of the
humour strips.
The comedy stuff. Yeah, but he's a great writer and understands the Phantom really well. And we've got more stuff from him coming up this year. We've got another story that he's written, a horror story, which is now being illustrated by Juan Birch over in Spain, which is going to be just lovely.
Nice.
It'll be sometime next year.
Nothing else.
Pronounced Boyks by a lot of people. Yeah.
I was going to say, if nothing else, I've now just learned how to pronounce his name.
Trevor Clark met up with him, and did something like Bosch or Birch or something like that.
Excellent.
We always said it was Boyks.
No, he'd probably slap you and challenge you to a duel if you did that.
But I think we're quite known for butchering some of the names on this podcast.
Yeah. No, I was dying to meet Sky Barry there for a while, but it never happened. Anyway.
He still does that.
So,
he's a good slap.
Yep.
Is there a reason why you're putting news stories in Phantom's World? Is that just because?
Because we can. There's no hard and fast rules, but what you see in Phantom's World is something which has never been seen in English before. Now we won't do it with the Swedish stuff because people are used to seeing that in the regular title, so we may as well keep it in the regular title. That's something which was established years ago by Jim. So why stuff around with that?
Yeah.
But you'll see stuff in Phantom's World which will be the older stuff from Fratelli Spada and RGE in Brazil.
Yeah. But
you'll also see new stuff from people outside of Scandinavia, people from Europe and
Nice. So another question I was going to ask, regarding Phantom's World before we finish up with that part is, when you've been researching your stories from around the world, has there been any stories that have surprised you, or a country that has produced Phantom work that you didn't know of, or something like that?
Yep. There's a few Turkey stories that Andreas tipped me into.
We saw one of those, didn't we? I think we saw one of those in the 80th special. Yeah.
The artist was a guy called Özkern Erol, who actually worked for Semik in the I think the 80s. He was a Turkish artist and went and lived in Sweden for a while and worked there. And when he went back to Turkey, he, I think from what I can understand, continued doing some Phantom work for Semik. Now, the annual that's coming out, the 2018 annual, it's a Wild West special. So it's all the Phantom Cowboy stories.
Okay.
Oh, nice.
So
and there's some good stuff in there.
Walker's Table.
It's just trying to think. There was something called which Egmont did called the I think it's either the Cowboy trilogy or the Western trilogy, and it's three Western stories which link up to each other.
Is that that's not the Gold Fever one, is it?
Then there's Outlaw Town, I think, is one, and what's the third one? I can't think of the third one, but all drawn by Oscar and Erop, and they were printed in Phantomen back in the 80s, I think. And then Andreasen covered a fourth, which was printed in Turkey in the Kizilmasker comic. And we've got hold of that, and we're printing that as well, just to finish off the story. So there's four Turkish stories, I guess you call them, even though the first three were printed in Sweden. There's Freedom Trail, which is I think another Egmont story drawn by Phil Mang. There's The Assassin, which is I think it's a more recent. I think it's it could be a Williams or it's from a daily. It could be George Ollison, I think. And there's another one called The Phantom Cowboy, which is a Cy Barry story.
Yeah.
And to round it out, we're putting in, just because we can, a brand new Phantom Ranger story, which has been written and drawn by Felming. And it's pretty wild. It's his origin story, and believe it or not, which I should have known, really. And
I thought you were
part
going
one
to
and
say
part two will be in the
giant size.
Part two of giant size that follows the annual.
Okay. I thought you were going to say that Shane Foley had done the new one, because he's been doing a lot of new work for you.
Oh, he did a new story, yeah. But no, he's changed doing a few other things as well. He's got a I think you saw the Sir Falcon story that he's done.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah, which is just great, and he's got a Planet Man story coming up and a Shadow story coming up as well.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I've enjoyed Shane's work in Giant Size. Dan didn't enjoy the first one.
No, that's fair. You throw me under the bus a little bit.
You're entitled to your opinion.
Look, to be honest, if anything, it was just short.
When I try and throw something new, not enough.
No, not enough to sort of go, well, where is this going, and all the rest of it. So I don't know if there's. I suppose I could put it to you. Is there some sort of grand plan where all of these are going to tie in together, all of the Shane Foley stories?
Oh, or? Yeah. If it keeps on selling, yeah. And look, indications are good. I really thought we'd get a lot of flack over Giant Size Phantom, but it surprised me. We're getting a lot of people writing in saying they really enjoy it, even though they think sometimes the art's really crappy. But most people understand that it's reprints from the 50s, and that's pretty well what it was like back then. There were exceptions, notable exceptions, of course, but it's pretty much a sign of a little window on the time that it was published.
So obviously, you've been writing a message from the publisher yourself for the Giant Size, Glenn, which is it must be nice for Dudley to get a break from those. But obviously, the Giant Size is something that you've got a real personal affinity with.
Yeah, I loved them as a kid, and I liked the whole thing, down the side where it said, 100 pages, 100 pages, 100 pages, or 6 stories, all the way down the side, and that's what they were. You could just sit down and just jump in and read them in any order. And we've got obviously a wealth of material that we can put into these, because those. Some of those titles, those Frew titles, went into the hundreds. So we've got enough sitting there for, the next 10, 15 years. But what we want to do is try and get some new stuff in there and get some good Australian talent out into the marketplace.
And I think that's a really clever balance that you're getting there, because it's not just all reprints of 1950s stuff, which I think is what it could so easily be, but the fact that Shane is contributing their stories there taking those old characters and putting a fresh spin on them. It's yeah.
Yeah. And there, look, there's a new Catman story being written, which is written by Andrew Constant, the guy who writes Kid Phantom. He's just written something for DC. He's just written a Demon miniseries, and the first issue's been out and getting really good reviews apparently.
Yeah.
Yeah, Stephen just read that and he was telling us how he really enjoyed it as well. So
yeah. And so, Andrew's just great to work with. He really knows his stuff, and he's got a lot of projects on his plate for us at the moment. And although DC is probably his bread and butter, he really does enjoy the Frew work, and is quite active in coming up with new ideas where they can be pushed and used. So there'll be a lot from him coming next year.
Oh, cool.
He's just like a big kid. I just think he's like, looks like he just I don't know. Every time I've talked to Andrew, you always have like fun talking with him, and he's just like he can be a naughty boy, I've got to tell you. Oh yeah, I can imagine. I always wondered how you usually get any work done with like when he's around and Paul Mason's around and stuff like that. Does Dudley have to be kind of like the school teacher and separate you to make sure the work gets done or something?
No, Dudley doesn't have much to do with I guess the hiring of the writers and artists. Is usually me that's got to sit down with them once a fortnight over a cup of coffee and listen to them. But it's now Dudley doesn't have time for that. His entire focus is getting the stuff out on time. Him and Frank. You all know Frank. Frank's our production manager, and he's just quite amazing. He's a machine. And with Dudley and Frank on the case, it just they're all working to capacity, but they're churning it out. And there's a lot of things that we'd like to do, but we just don't have the resources or the manpower to do it, unfortunately.
Well, that sort of brings me to a question I was going to ask, Glenn. Like, Jim quite famously had a very small crew. Like, it was just himself and his wife and Judy Walmsley as the secretary. Already we can see, if you look on the inside of any Frew comic at the moment, there's yourself and Renee, Dudley, Frank Schultz, Shahua as production coordinator. Like, you're starting to get, what, five staff there, more? You seem to be expanding.
Yeah, Renee's not here during business hours. He still has his own accounting practice. He's all of his contact is through phone and email, and he comes in once a week for a production meeting. But the office itself is just the four of us, and it's in a warehouse that Renee had, and we've just it was his daughter's textbook shop, and they've moved across the other side of the warehouse complex. We've just moved in there and taken over. I'm sure you've seen some photos, but we're going to try and make some time to get everyone in who comes down for the dinner in June or July, whenever it is.
Yeah, and that would be absolutely fantastic for people to be, because I know I've spoken to Sammy J and Duncan, who came out and had a look through, and they were just blown away by what they saw out there.
Yeah, I've got all my collection up on the wall of art and prints and all of that. And we're trying to turn the front area, which is only tiny, into a shop of sorts, because, as you know, Frew's doing a bit of merchandise now, and we do actually get people. They'll just walk in. They've seen the address in the comic, and they think, I might go and have a look and buy this and buy that, and they'll come in and have a bit of a browse and walk out happy.
Do you get a bit less of that than you might have when you were in the Sydney CBD? No, it was weird. People used to come in, of course, in the city, but I think Jim and the Judys had it nailed down pretty well. Yeah, they would make you feel like it wasn't a good idea sometimes if you want to come in and talk about the Phantom to them. They were busy. Yeah.
I remember once, years ago, I forget who it was, but I was in there, and someone they didn't want to see. I forget who it was, but it was a guy who he's got phantom tattoos all over his body, and he wants to talk about panel 3 in page 17 of issue 427 or whatever. And they saw his face at the door through the frosted glass and just ducked behind the counter, just didn't answer the door. Yeah,
I think I know who that is.
So people got the hint, but over here, it's as I said, it's a warehouse complex, and people can just drive in and walk in and have a look around.
Is that at your place, Jermaine?
Is that Ariane?
Yeah, that's no, it's not. It's not my wife. It's my daughter.
Oh, okay.
For a second there, I thought that's what happens when you just wander into Frew and walk around.
No, that's my daughter. She's had a birthday party today, so obviously she's getting a little bit overtired.
The sugar crash.
How old is she now?
Yeah.
How old?
She's just turned 3.
3, yes, what I thought. Wow. God, doesn't it go?
Yeah. I know, the time goes quick, and just when I thought, I started getting on top of it, the wife decides to get pregnant again, so...
That'll teach you.
Yeah. The worst thing is she's due at the end of, at the end of May, so I don't know how it's going to go with Supernova this year, so...
Oh, well, in that case, Glenn, you really need to throw the doors open of Frew at around Supernova, and Jermaine has just got a really terrible decision to make.
Well, I can see it now, actually. So it could be a good idea, the Frew nursery. What do you think?
I'm more than happy to let you look after him if you want, Glenn.
She may come back purple.
That's all right. She likes the Phantom. Phantom. She's a fan of the Phantom. Got to get that next generation in. When she watched that Kid Phantom homework movie, she watched it like over and over, like about 4 or 5 times.
She liked it then, yeah.
Yeah, she liked it, and when it was bedtime, she didn't want a bedtime story. She was telling Mum what happened in the movie. So I think the wife was a little bit over it. She was just, I could almost see her rolling her eyes and thinking, "Oh no, not another one."
That's got to be just about a constant state of flux to your wife, I think.
What?
But no, and same thing here though, Glenn. Like I showed it to Angus, who you've met. He's 8, and he just just is a massive fan of it. We've watched it. We're starting to slow down now. It's probably only once a week or so that he asks to put it back on again. So
yeah, he's going to like issue 3. It's just getting better all the time. It's looking really nice.
Yeah, that's
they meet some pirates, which is good. And we want to try and, in the next issue, I can talk about the next couple of issues if you want.
Yeah, please.
Issue 4, they land in, I forget the name of the city. It's a port on the west coast of Africa, on their way to London into New York, and meet up with this French Fagin-like character and some street kids, and that's interesting. And in the issue after that, they land in London and meet some, I won't say who, but some famous people from the 60s.
The Beatles?
That's one of them, yeah, or 4 of them.
Because I know you're a Beatles fan.
Oh, yeah. Another, well, let me say, the other person was the most recognisable face, according to Time magazine, of the 60s. If that helps.
Well, it doesn't help these two 30-somethings.
No,
Dan, you're 40-something, right?
Shush.
Yeah.
I'm maintaining my youthful roots.
Most recognisable person in the 60s. Yeah, all right. Well, people that are listening to the podcast, maybe you can let us know, because I'm a little bit stumped on that one.
Maybe even of all time. I'm not sure.
Oh,
anyway.
wow.
Yeah.
So,
and then after that, they go over. They land in New York, and I'm sure you've noticed by now, and you will have noticed by then, because there'll be one in the next issue, the issue after, a couple of little posters floating about, all stuck up on the streets, advertising Grandad the Great. Now, Grandad the Great, as everyone knows, is Mandrake's father. So Kid will stumble into a theatre and meet a young Mandrake, which will be good fun.
Yes.
Nice.
He'll call him Boy Drake, but he won't like it.
That's very cool.
So, while we're back onto your new innovations,
and I've got to live with that.
Sorry, keep going.
And then after that, I've got to live with his uncle and auntie and start school, and he will meet Diana and all of that, and that's when the coming of age adventures start pretty well.
I think a lot of people.
And there's also a in the little animated short, saved by Kit. She'll turn up again. Is all I can say.
Ah. Very cool.
Stay tuned.
So are you having? Yeah, it seems like you're having a lot of fun with Kid Fandom.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Would that be one of the more rewarding, fun projects you've worked on?
Oh, certainly. That and Giant Size. Giant Size is just great because I'm getting to use some artists that I've always wanted to work with. Glenn Lumsden, for example, is doing some killer covers. They're just knockouts, and they really capture the spirit and the feel of the times.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and he's enjoying it too. You can tell. Go ahead.
No. I can tell that he's enjoying it by some of his Facebook posts and comments and stuff. I just wanted to, with Giant Size, all these extra characters, like, you own the rights for those, correct? Because they were a lot of...
Yeah. But you'll see, I mean, for example, in the latest issue 3, there's a reprint of Crimson Comet #1, and that's not one of Frew's. That's just another character that was contemporary to the Frew characters at that time, and we got permission from John Dixon's kids to reprint that.
Okay.
Nice. And there'll be some more of that too. There'll be some other characters coming up soon, which Frew didn't name, but people who read the Frew comics, the other Frew comics back then, will know these characters. They were that popular back then. So, and there'll be some new stuff as well. We're doing a new Planet Man story, which a lot of people don't remember Planet Man. It was a Frew comic. I think it went for 4 or 5 issues. I think it was 4 from memory, and pretty derivative. Just a Buck Rogers type in a really bad space helmet, and Chris Sakira has written a reintroduction, kicking and screaming into the 21st century, and Massimo Gamberi, Italian artist, is doing the story, and I think he's probably already posted some pages with which he does.
Now he also did the Christmas special for this cover for this year as well.
It looks fantastic. It's done in a it's almost a like a Raymond style, which if you know what I'm talking about, it's classic Flash Gordon. It just looks beautiful. So that's the stuff that I'm enjoying.
Yeah. So I just wanted to ask a quick question regarding Giant Size. Now you said before that there's been a lot of positive people talking about it and buying it. Are a lot of these people not Phantom fans, but like other like Australian fans, and then they're buying it because they're classic Australian stories, and is that opening up?
We're getting some of them.
Yeah. And so is that opening up like a new market and stuff like that?
Well, we hope so. I mean, the general opinion that we get from the people who remember it from back then is that they get it. They understand that it's a tribute or a homage or whatever you want to call it, and it's all been done in the spirit of the original. And most of the people are getting that, which is good.
Yeah.
Can I ask you, Glenn, just to take a slight tangent from that? You talked about Massimo Gamberi, and he's already posted a few of his pages online and that sort of thing. And we've had conversations in the past around Jamie Johnson. Obviously, he's become very aware, or was always very aware of trying not to give too much away, too many spoilers. Mike Manley is very typical for it. Do you have a big problem with the artists going ahead like that, or?
Look, the big problem is, and look, I surely, well, as you said, I mean, I understand that they need to promote themselves and need to get their work out there for people to see it. And the point that you made about spoiling the surprise certainly is an aspect. But the biggest one is that our stuff doesn't get approved by King Features until maybe 2 or 3 days before it goes to print, which is why it happens at the last minute because we're just so busy, and because the things aren't complete. The comic itself hasn't been put together until 2 or 3 days before we send it to the printer. So we have to send it to King in New York, wait a couple of days for their approval, and then as soon as it comes back, we push a button, it goes to the printer. And so we, a lot of what these guys are posting hasn't been approved, and although we haven't had a slap on the wrist yet, it's quite feasible that King Features may see it one day and say, you can't do that. So we've just got to, we had a problem with the as you may remember, the Girl Phantom annual. Yeah. What was on the back cover we couldn't use because in their opinion it was too what's the word? I guess lascivious. The comment was that it looked like a 1960s porn poster.
Oh yes.
So
we had the same comment actually.
So did King Features actually knock that back?
So we had to take it off and find. Yeah.
Right.
So we had to change that at the last minute and tell the printer, hold your horses, we've got something else coming over. And that's a good example. That can happen literally at while we're ready to
11
print.
o'clock, yeah. So what is your relationship like with King Features? Like, how does that all happen? And because you may mention that
I don't have a lot to do with them. I know that the lady over there who handles all of international marketing is a lady called Kathy Titus. I've met her and corresponded with her over the years as I've had different licenses personally with them. But most of it goes. Jim had set up. He went over there to in the late 80s, mid 80s, late 80s to set that in place. But everything else, the cards, the posters, whatever we do goes through Merchantwise, who is King's agent down in Melbourne.
Yeah.
And they're lovely people. They're really nice to deal with.
Oh, awesome.
Yep.
Cool. So some of the other innovations that you have brought along, we won't spend too much on this because we've got heaps of other questions we want to ask you. Probably the ones that
hang on, I'm just going to unroll my sleeping bag.
Don't get too comfortable.
So
no, not me.
So one of the ones that I would love to hear about is the plans for Heart of Darkness and also for your trade paperbacks.
Okay, all right. First of all, the trade paperback, the first one is on Friday. And it looks fantastic. They've done a really good job. Done a few deliveries to some of the shops. It's, as you probably know, it's called, for those who came in late, and it's just a collection of all the essential, well, to my mind, the essential stories. It's a Phantom primer. And the whole point of it, apart from Frew getting into bookshops and not news agencies, which we really need to do to survive, is that it'll be sitting there, hopefully displayed. People will walk through and they'll either say, oh, I remember the character. I used to read this when I was a kid. I think I'll pick this up. Or, I love the Phantom. I think I'll buy this for my kid. Or whatever. But it's got, you've probably seen the post. It's got, the story of the first Phantom. It's got the story of Hero, of Devil, the Phantom Child, one of the two versions where young Kit Walker first meets young Diana. Walker's Table. Some of them are different versions of the ones that we're used to or have seen before, but that was done really just to keep a bit of variety in there so that we could have a few different artists. Wilson McCoy, so Barry Weymouth through, just to liven it up a bit. And it's all been done in colour, and Ivan Peterson over in Norway has been really helpful in colouring some of the stories for us because he has access to pristine file to do it easier.
You mentioned the childhood of the Phantom. One of the things that we discussed in the last podcast, Stephen asked why one childhood of the Phantom was used and not the other. So have you used the other, the daily story instead of the Sunday or vice versa in this one?
Yeah, exactly. Because we knew back then, believe it or not, this was planned that
I believe it.
That we okay, thousands wouldn't, but we knew that we wanted to have both stories out there, and perfect opportunity to use the two different ones.
Oh, cool. That's really good.
So you've got other trade paperbacks in mind to come out for the bookstores and stuff like that as well?
Oh, yeah. The Heart of Darkness is a real thorny one. I personally would just like to put the whole thing out as a one big, 360-page hardcover and just get it over and done with. So, we could say, here it is. If you want to read it, off you go. See you next month. But that'd annoy a lot of people. The comics and reading it, but the big problem is that it's originally used as a backup because the Swedes' page count went from 32 down to 22 pages. We needed to fill up those extra pages, and that's when Heart of Darkness was brought in. And since then, and probably my fault more than anyone else's, because what we've been printing ever since we've taken over has been. It's been a mixture. It's been a bit of everything. They're not always necessarily a 22-page Swedish story. So all of a sudden, Heart of Darkness will get bumped for that issue. And I really wanted to introduce the Phantom by Gaslight series, and we needed to do that. There was a particular amount it was, but we needed to have that spare backup feature sitting there, and that's been started. And so what's happening now is, to try and put it simply, whenever there's a 22-page story, we have to choose between an 8-page Phantom by Gaslight or an 8-page Heart of Darkness. And I would like to... the current line of thought is to put it out as two separate trade paperbacks. So break it in half, put out the first one next year sometimes, because by then the comic will have caught up to somewhere close to the end of the first half. Yeah, and then put out the second one, a year later when we're close to finishing in the comic.
So you will continue to put the Heart of Darkness in the back of. You've sort of committed to that.
I think we have to. If we don't do it, there will be some people who will be upset.
It's almost a case of whatever decision you make, you're going to upset people.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That's life at Frew. It is. It doesn't matter what you do, someone's not going to like it.
Yeah.
And you cannot please everybody. That's for sure.
No.
But
we had one guy write in about the Girl Phantom special, saying that it was for poofters. Yeah, quote unquote. That's not a word I use myself, but anyway.
Do you find that having your different titles, or for instance, Phantom's World, your trade paperbacks, giant size and stuff like that, it allows you to cater for more people rather than just having the one regular series? Would you think that's a fair assessment?
Yeah, well, that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to get it to. We've got to be very careful because there's a fine line here. We don't want to saturate the market. We don't want to have. Just throw it all out there and expect people to buy everything, because that's not fair. The average Phantom fan, from what I've gathered, has a
budget.
I won't say a shallow pocket, but it's not limited,
Yes, and all the wives said thank you.
All the wives hate me, but there's there's room for, I think, for everything we're doing now. I think there's room for. There's a market for. Giant Size Phantom is hopefully scratching the itch of a few of the older people who remember that stuff. The Kid Phantom is hopefully appealing to kids, to the tweens and the young teenagers, which is exactly what it should be doing. And the Phantom's world, I think, is appealing to the hardcore Phantom fan who just wants more Phantom stories.
So, do you think, Glenn, that all of the trade paperbacks will be in colour? I mean, the for those who came in late is advertised as glossy full colour, and I can't wait to see that. Will Gaslight,
I'd like them
or Heart
to
of
be,
Darkness?
Yeah,
Gaslight. A good thing about one of the good things about Jason Paul is that whenever he produces a story for us, like 2 or 3 days later, it turns up in colour, and that's the kind of guy he is. And we've got all the colour files sitting there ready for a for a Phantom by Gaslight trade paperback. And he's also written and drawn a couple of full stories himself, which we'll get in there pretty soon too.
Oh, that's great.
Wow. So
he's done a sorry.
No, you go.
No, he's done a it's great if you know your Lovecraft. He's done a story about Herbert West, who was a reanimator, but Herbert West's grandfather in London in the early 19th century, reanimating a corpse and getting a little bit of help from Victor Frankenstein, who he's going to Royal College of Medicine with, and he's written and drawn this great story called The Anatomist, which will be coming up soon. He's just about to start one where the Phantom meets Dorian Gray. So
this is separate to Phantom by Gaslight.
It's still in the
genre, or
still part of the Gaslight milieu, if I can use that word. It's in the world of the Phantom by Gaslight, but it's not part of the ongoing storyline that you're seeing.
Okay.
And we'll do that from time to time because that's a good thing about being the boss. I can say, yeah, let's do this.
So you
no,
must
it's a good
be
thing
really
about that period.
You must be really keen then to be getting all of these Australian artists producing stories. Like I know Jamie Johnson's just absolutely thrilled, and we spoke to him on the podcast about following in your footsteps and being an Australian artist to produce a Phantom story. If you're saying now that Jason Paulus is doing it as well, and
look, Jamie's going to be a big name. I think he's got the chops and he's got the right attitude. He's just getting better and better and better all the time. Jason Paulus is amazing. He'll I'll get an email saying, "Look, I've got this idea for a story," and I say, "That sounds great." And the next day I'll have the entire 22 pages roughed out. I'll say, "That's great," and the next day it's finished. The day after it's coloured. He's just insane. I mean, just the guy.
And he's got young kids as well. Where does he fit it in?
I think he's got three kids, I think, and he's building his own house down at Port Kembla, I think, or something like that, in his spare time.
He's embarrassing us, Germ.
I reckon. I got one kid and I'm tired.
And his stuff is his artwork is faultless, and the storytelling is excellent. He really knows how to pace a story.
I remember watching his sketches on the sketch cover, and and everyone's fabulous watching them sketches, but he was totally in his element, and it was almost like you were watching it in fast forward, or 2 times speed.
Yeah. He's been doing it for zonks, and he just it's just like you stick a pencil in his hand. It's just like an extension of his body. It's just wonderful to behold.
And what about the sort of Khalif story that you mentioned back in the Ink Spot magazine?
That's about 3/4 done, I think. That's artwork looks fantastic. It'll be a graphic novel in the true sense. Its first release will be graphic, slightly oversized, sort of more squarish, I guess, than a regular comic. Full colour, and we're going to try and get that into the bookstores as well if we can.
Nice.
Cool. Looking forward to that as well. And again, I guess it's 12 months ago now that Giancarlo Caracuzo started putting a few of those pages on Facebook for
Yeah.
us to see. So
Yeah.
they look fantastic.
He's done all things. Yeah, they look beautiful. Yeah, and it's got a really nice, fresh. Well, I guess you'd call it a European style. It's the kind of comic that you can pick up and just look at to see the pretty pictures. You know, it's just lovely.
Nice. So moving on from your comics that you've introduced, and it's moving on to your products. Now, there's been a few, so we'll go through them and then you can kind of comment as you see fit. So we've got the Signature Series, the Kiwi covers, the file cards, the bookmarks, the Universe cards, the colouring in book, and then also the sketch cover. And then you've also got the jam covers and stuff like that as well, with the file, the folios as well. So,
lots of new stuff, isn't it? When you list it out like that.
Well, my comment would be yes, you're absolutely right. We did them all.
What Jermaine's question is, can we have more, please?
Yeah, I guess.
You know where Jermaine's at.
Well, no, it was more like so you've brought through a lot. What are some ones that you're very proud of, like obviously? And I guess the thing that I've enjoyed about you guys is that when something hasn't worked, i.e. with the Kiwi covers, you stopped it. Like, you're not afraid of almost admitting that you've made a mistake and moving on to the next idea.
Look, I really thought that had maybe sparked some kind of interest over in New Zealand, but no, they're all asleep, I don't know. And sales are going up in Australia, but they're going down there. Wow. I know there are people over there that read it. Maybe they're subscribing now, I don't know. But let me put it this way. And on the T-shirt was a black square. And underneath the black square it said Auckland Nightlife.
Are they the same people who are buying Phantom comics?
Yeah. I think the sales of New Zealand just went down even more after that joke then.
Yeah. But look, I don't know. The trick was to get Gordon and Gotch to put half and half into the newsagents to see if the brown half sold more, if there was any kind of national pride in picking up a Phantom in its original New Zealand colour. But they stuffed that up. I mean, I was seeing New Zealand covers here in Sydney, so who knows what happened.
Yeah, I did hear about that story. So some of the other ones that have been more successful, like the jam covers, the folios, the posters and stuff like that. So, like, which one of those, have you enjoyed and seen, interest amongst?
The jam covers are good fun, but they kind of only become as much fun, I think, for the buyer when they're there at Supernova, because it's all part of the atmosphere of being, getting artists to sign it and seeing them all in person and meeting them and that kind of thing. But the folios will spin out from that, and that's an ongoing thing. We've got a couple of other, I guess you call them themes for folios coming up soon, but again, it's now up to me to find the time to do them. Plus, we don't want to keep on throwing them out because, like I said, there was a saturation point.
Yeah.
We'd probably be happy with 2 folios per year, I reckon.
Yeah. Oh, okay, that's a good idea.
That suits my wallet, to be honest.
So what would that be?
Well, I mean, ideally it should be Supernova and Christmas. Ideally, so let's. Yeah. It didn't happen this year. We're just too busy. We've had a big couple of weeks just getting everything ready to go to the printer before Christmas because A-Class is down and we go and all that sort of thing.
Yeah.
I mean, this year's Supernova is going to be an interesting one. Andrew Constant has written a sequel to the Blackfire story.
Oh, wow.
And it's great. It really is. And we've got a young Adelaide artist called Paul Bullman doing the artwork, and it's just a knockout. He's again someone who's going to be a big name pretty soon, I think. And we'd like to have that as the Supernova issue. But what would we do for the folio? We can't go and do another Phantom Down Under theme again. That's been done, so I've got to work around that one. Any ideas? Yeah, there's a Frew Crew badge there waiting.
I'm just sulking. I'm just sulking that I might miss it. So I'll be no help. Surely Australia.
I'm sure you'll be able to organise someone to pick it up for you.
Yeah, better. So some of the others, and I guess some of the things like the bookmarks that you had at the Supernova this year. The thing that I liked about them is that they were like cheap and attainable.
Yeah, that's all they are. That's all they are.
Yeah.
They're just something that people can buy cheaply to get the artist to sign. That's all they are. And there'll be more. There'll be more this year. There'll be some new ones.
Yeah, because like you've got the people like us that are in your 30s to your 60s who have got a little bit more disposable income. And then you have your people that are, hopefully you have your teenagers that are picking up with Kid Phantom and stuff like that, and they don't always have disposable income. So I guess that's the thing that I liked about it is that, it was, cheap for them to kind of pick up and, to use for school or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Is there, just on that,
yeah.
like, I was very excited to be able to get, I think, 6 or 7 artists to sign my bookmarks at Supernova, but that obviously, that leaves 8 or 9 that haven't. Is there any chance of getting some sort of registry of addresses or whatever that we can send?
I don't know if we can do that. It's like the sketch covers. We get people ringing up and saying, "Oh, I want a sketch cover drawn by Cy Barry" and things like that. And so what you've got to do is get in touch with Cy Barry.
Yeah. Yeah, that's probably fair enough. I can understand.
And all of those bookmarks, they're all. You can find them all. They're not hard to find.
Yeah.
They really aren't. Yeah.
Majority of
them
them
are
are on Facebook. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because like I've had a couple done by overseas people, and obviously there's the delay with postage sending it both ways, but most of them are pretty cool to do it.
Yeah.
Now, Glenn, I wanted to ask you about the cards, 2 lots of cards, the file cards to begin with. It's amazing how quickly they're marching on. We're now well into the 200s. You must be pleased with how those are coming out. But one of the criticisms...
Yeah, we've had a really good reaction. Sorry, no, one of the criticisms is...
I think that we'd like to see... and David Budds is going to kill me for this. Sorry, David. I know you're listening. We'd probably like to have a little bit more information on the back about, what was a really cool old jungle song that appeared on the back, or those sorts of things.
Oh, but who's going to do that? I mean, we have to sleep,
Do you?
I mean, really. There are people out there that know all that stuff, but the problem is we have to go and get it checked and verified, and that all takes time. Yeah. All that information that we're putting on the back now is information that people, a few people know, and we don't have to verify because we know it's correct, and we can grab it each time they need to go to print and just send them off. But we don't. I mean, in an ideal world, if I had a day a week to do stuff like that, it'd be great. But for example, we've got now on the back of the latest set of file cards, cover art by Tommy Hughes, who, as we all know, did the free covers for right up until 1970, I think, or something like that. He did all the famous covers in the 5, 6, 7, 800s, pretty much before Tessa came along. But I've just found out from Peter Chapman's widow that Peter Chapman did a few of those covers. Every time Tommy Hughes would go on holidays, Peter Chapman would step in and draw one. And so now, what do we do? We've got to try and find out which ones he did. No one knows. No one remembers.
How are you going to find out?
Yeah. Yeah. So you open a can of worms once you start trying to dig up information.
Because back then, no one really cared about that type of stuff.
Well, I mean, yeah.
And like
records weren't
original art, yeah.
There's covers there which to my eye, and I've got a I've got a good eye for artistic style. I think it's my right one. My left one's not too good, but there are some covers there which, when I look at, I say, oh yeah, I can see Peter Chapman there. It's just in the way those creases are placed on the trousers or whatever. But I could be wrong,
Yeah.
It's just my opinion at the end of the day.
All right, so that was an excellent response to that question. Now that my follow-up was about the universe cards. I don't even think Jermaine might have been in Bali when we talked about this. When I talked about this with Stephen, the universe cards, fantastic idea. Love the concept. My query there is around the canon, and regular listeners will know that I'm a big fan of the Lee Falk canon and the newspaper canon. The very first universe card brought into question, I guess, that and the universe cards, set themselves up, I suppose, as telling canonical facts about the characters. And the Phantom card, number 1, talked about the Sandal Singh saga and that sort of, is Sandal pregnant to the Phantom? So, how do you draw the line or decide what goes on the back of those universe cards, which have the potential to establish what is the canon of the Phantom?
Well, and you probably won't like this, to my mind, the Frew canon and the Swedish canon should be almost interchangeable. And I know that it's heretic.
Oh, I've got the biggest smile on my face.
But,
I just feel like saying, "Booyah, Dan!"
No, I'm listening.
But it's my opinion. Now, bear in mind too that for most of those stories that we're talking about, Ulf Granberg was the editor over at Samick Stroke Egmont, and he was a guy that really knew his stuff. So any story that was written under his auspices or written by him, because he wrote as well, did pay care on before, and so it wasn't. And look, there are exceptions because things changed after he stepped down. But to a large degree, what he put out fit quite comfortably hand in hand with what had already been before by Lee Falk, and that's my opinion. I don't think that the Swedish stories can be ignored.
Mm.
Yep.
So,
very cool.
Regarding those universe cards, is it a pure translation from when they appeared in the Phantom Men comics, or are they modified slightly for the Frew readers?
Pretty much, yeah. I mean, pretty much. For those who don't know, I'll just say now that most of them were originally one-page backup feature, I suppose you call it, in the Phantom Swedish comic, and we have bought the rights from Egmont to use them, and Andreas Eriksson,
he wrote most of them,
doing translations.
Yeah.
And there were 3 different artists, and all, to my mind, the best artists that Egmont's ever had on the Phantom. Henrik Selstrom,
Johnson. And there's that lady as well.
Ellen.
Is it Eli? Yeah.
Ellen, yeah, I think. And lovely art. And it just made sense for us to pick it up. And like the file cards were an incentive, these cards are an incentive to subscribe to the quarterlies that we put out. But having said that, we'll be adding. No, all I want to say is that we'll be adding to it. We'll be putting some Kid Phantom cards in there. We'll be putting some Gaslight cards in there. And when you start to see the Phantom pop up and a few of the other Frew character stories in Giant Size Phantom, you'll see some cards showing the other characters from the Frew stable. So it will be expanded.
Oh,
and have you found that those, and I guess, to finish the conversation about the cards, the whole purpose of them, as you've said, is that incentive to subscribe. Have you seen success in that the subscription numbers have jumped when you've announced?
Yeah. Although it had an adverse effect, what we didn't think of, and again my fault, was that the poor retailers, the comic shops that are trying to sell Phantom comics, were starting to lose some of their Phantom customers. So we've made the cards available to them as well. So if you go into your local comic shop and you want to put in what they call a standing order, which is like an over-the-counter subscription to comic shops for any of the Frew comics, you'll get the cards with them. And if you don't, you just ask them, and they'll get on the phone and get them.
And I think Stephen's starting to get his that way.
Yeah, it's really bumped up the subscriptions, which we need to do, because our reliance on Gordon and Gotch, I don't think, is a good thing. We just, whenever you deal with a monopoly, you don't have any control.
Do you get more cut of the pie? Do you get a bigger cut of the pie with the subscription? Yeah.
Yeah. It's a better return, but it's like incredibly labour intensive. It really is. Just poor Shah just sitting there putting comics into bags for 2 or 3 days a week.
Well, I appreciate it as a subscriber. Thank you very much, Shah.
Let her know.
She can listen to the podcast. Well, she can listen to the podcast while she's packing all the comics. Okay, so a couple. One of the things that I thought was interesting was the Frew's Treasure Room that you've chucked on the website. Do you think you will be adding to that a little bit more, or?
Yeah. As we uncover more things, when we unpack boxes, we don't want to. It was Jim's policy to hang on to all this stuff so that the price that he could ask for the company when he sold it would be a better proposition for him, but it didn't quite word like that. And I mean, frankly, half this stuff is just taking up too much room. It's just,
and I think that any collector who, and you see it on eBay or Gumtree all the time, any collector who thinks they're going to sell their entire collection for top dollar is probably not got their finger on the pulse. You need to split it up if you're going to maximise
it.
Yeah. We've got boxes and boxes full of printers proofs, like colour cover proofs for a lot of the comics going back into the 700s. And I mean, to my mind, they're not worth a lot, but we could probably drag them out and make them available at Supernova or the other conventions that we're going to be doing, and sell them off for 20-25 each or something like that. And
there's one on eBay. A little bit.
Yeah, I've seen them. That's that guy who's selling those used to work just near the Frew office, and every time they'd throw out a stack of them, he'd pick them up from the garbage bin and take them home. Smart, enterprising.
Very smart, yeah. Especially if he can. I think he's got it on sale for $400, so he might want to sell a couple of those before this podcast comes out.
Yeah, it's just not worth that. It isn't, But saying that, they're a little piece of Frew history, so it's sort of
and they're unique. They're fun.
It might look nice framed, and it's got this whole pop art appeal about it. You just put it in a nice frame and whack it in the man cave,
Yeah, and you might get people who have got a special attachment to that comic. It might be one that their first ever comic that they read, or whatever it is.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Or they might have it signed or whatever, or the original art or something.
The first fan comic that their wife threw out when they got married.
So you made mention of Supernova and other conventions just then. Is that a hint that you are looking at going to other comic conventions around
we're looking
the world?
We're committed to Supernova. There's a good chance we might do Supernova Melbourne this year. And I think from memory, I could be wrong, I think it was on a week after Sydney last year, in which case what we'd do is just bundle everything up and send it down with one of the carriers that do that for some of the other people, and just get down here the week later and do the weekend there. But it's just not worth packing up a 2-ton truck and driving down. It's just too hard. There's a convention coming up in February in Canberra, ACAF, I think they're called. I'm not sure. It's the Australian Cartoonists Association Foundation for something, or I don't know what it is. Yeah, run by Kath Brinkley, and they want us to go there. They've offered us a stall, which is nice, but it's not going to have a huge crowd through. But the crowd that does come through will be die-hard comic fans. So it'd be nice for us to be there, show off the trade paperback and a few other new things. But Paul Mason and Andrew Constant are guests, so they'll be there. So what I'll probably do is get them onto the stand and just drive down with a car full of kid phantom stuff and trade paperbacks and whatever, and just do the weekend with them.
Mm.
And that would be similar to, I guess, what we saw at the Oz Comic Con at Brisbane. I was lucky to see you up there. And
at Brisbane, yeah. There'll be a bit more Frew stuff up on display.
Mm-hmm.
So that'll be good. We'll probably get Bradley up from Albury and Luke Keegan up from Wagga. It's all close.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's not tell people we're inviting them individually to come up to these things.
Well, the invite's there.
Well, I know Luke listens to this, and I think Bradley still listens to this as well. So they probably just pressed pause and started messaging their wives saying, "I've got this. I need this time off. Start getting on TripAdvisor."
Yep, I'm sure. Yep.
So, have you found?
I'm not sure what the exact
obviously,
date.
You've had a bit of a focus the last 2 years since you've been there of getting through to Supernova in Sydney. It's been worth your while doing, do you think?
Oh yeah. Look, it's from a sales point of view, it's okay because it's not a cheap exercise, but from a PR point of view, we can't put a value on it. It's just it creates such goodwill, with the people that turn up to come over and have a chat and shake. And you've been there, you've seen it. It's always for the entire weekend. It's always buzzing, and that's that creates excitement to the point where people come over who don't know the Phantom or maybe have a mild interest and just want to know what all the fuss is about. And that's the person we need,
Yeah, exactly. I know. This year. So it got so like with you spacing out all the guests and stuff like that. You pretty much spend the whole day there just so you don't miss out and stuff, which kind of means you don't get to cruise the other stores. So I know that was the problem that I had from my end.
Exactly.
So me too. I hardly got to see anything else.
Well, it was a space issue. We couldn't fit them all behind there at the same time. That's all.
But it's a good problem to do because we're spending money at you guys' table instead of somewhere else. So, you did it well.
Yeah, of course. No, they're probably the only ones we'll do this year, convention-wise.
Yeah. So sales figures, have you... Now, you said before at the start of the conversation that the first 2 issues did really, really well after the gap. Do you feel like, and so as much as you can tell us, have they increased by a lot? Have they increased by enough compared to what you've put in, or?
Yeah, look, enough is probably the most diplomatic answer I can give you. Let me put it this way: it's not as much as what Frew was selling in its heyday. When I say heyday, this is when I first met Jim back in the late 80s, and he was, Frew was making money hand over fist back then. It had a really dedicated fan base and circulation, and over the years, for whatever reason, and not pointing fingers at anybody, but the interest kind of got the interest waned, and by the time we bought it, it was not doing as well as what it should have been, and so that's all been turned around. And I think a lot of that is due not so much to what we're putting out, but also I think the astute reader can see that there's a new team on board, and these new people have an energy, and that's in a sense it's become contagious. People are picking up on that, and people say, I'm going to buy this because I don't want to miss you Frew. God, I don't know. I think it's probably the new Frew pewter age. I think it's probably
pewter. That's not bad.
Yeah, so a few people have called it a Callum has, was it Callum or Duncan? One of them dubbed it the Renaissance. So you haven't told Renee that one, I hope, have you?
Which one?
The Renaissance.
Oh dear, no, don't tell him that.
There was a couple of others as well. And I wish I could remember them.
It'll go to his head. We'll never hear the end of it.
All right, so we won't tell Renee that one. So, but I guess because like we saw probably the rebirth or the renaissance back in the late 80s and all that. Do you and as much as you said like the figures have increased slightly, do you feel that with the interest and I guess with the kid fandom and everything that's flown on with that, the new Indian movie that's come out and the podcast and what we do, what all the other fans do and stuff like that.
That's good of you to throw us in there, just sneak us in there. No, we're part of it for sure.
Yeah, jump on the bandwagon. Do you feel like that there is a bit of a bubble at the moment?
A little bit, yeah. I wouldn't say it's a worldwide bubble. It's pretty. I think it's localized. Yeah, it's what we're doing, I think. But look, it's interesting because we get feedback from overseas people. We had a little half page. People know what we're doing over here, and we've currently got through the energies of Massimo, we've got an Italian publisher. Maybe looking at doing something with the Switch, which could be good.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so, but don't. That's all I know.
So, is there room for? And I know obviously there's license with King Features and everything like that as well. But is there room to tap into other markets like the Italian, maybe the Indian, or South America and stuff like that as well?
It's our biggest problem. I mean, as I alluded to before, dealing with a distributor that has a monopoly on Australian newsagents is really testing, which is why we need to get it out there into the book market. And that in itself is a whole lot of exercise. There's not one distributor that distributes to all bookshops, bookstores. So there's a whole bevy of them, and they don't all distribute to the same ones. And so you've got to go to bed with a few of them to get maximum reach. But and remember, we've only got the license for Australia and New Zealand. If we had a license for other parts of the world, if we could find a distributor in India, for example, and in what's another good example?
Italy, South America, Brazil.
South America, Scandinavia. It would make all of the difference. Imagine an Indian guy, an Indian fan, and we all know them, and we know how rabid they are, being able to jump online and order the latest Frew from someone around the corner. It'd be ideal. But King Features just won't entertain the idea, so we're working on that one.
Okay, so that is. I guess this is probably like not a pipe dream, but something that you are wanting to increase down, whether it's a year or 2 or 3 years down the track.
Yeah, and even things like the trade paperback. I mean, that would be nice to get into some American comic shops or American.
Okay.
They would love it. They would love it. We all know American fans who are just crying out for this sort of thing.
Yeah, but we can't. We're not allowed to. So we're working on it.
That's good to hear. Now, Dan, anything else you want to ask about from a Frew point of view? Because I do want to touch upon fanfare.
There is a couple more things, Frew focus things, that I'd be keen to explore. One of the things I've really enjoyed, Glenn, about the Frew Publications since you and Renee have come on board is the way that we're starting. And the wedding special is a really good example, actually, where we see little snippets of, I guess, maybe what is your personal collection being published more broadly. And in the wedding special, it was the Paul Ryan picture being done at Lee Falk.
That's a piece of Renee's that he bought at the dinner, and I've always wanted to publish it because it's just a beautiful piece. You know?
Yeah, and the Mike Manley piece on the back, and even the Lou Manor full circle.
Yeah, that's a piece I got on eBay. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's just wonderful for us, I think, as the regular fan, to be able to see some of these special parts of your collections that are being published more broadly. That must be pretty satisfying to be able to do.
Yeah, I'm of the opinion that if it's a nice piece of artwork, share it, get it out there, let people see it. You know?
Yeah, there was also that. Wasn't there that Italian story as well that you brought the whole
Yeah,
art
there's a few of those.
eBay? Yeah,
there's a few of those. I've got I bought a couple. Renee's bought a couple. We've probably got about 2 years worth of stories to print in Phantom's World. One of the problems we have with Phantom's World is the stories are just so simple, and they are, again, as I was saying before, a window on the time that they were done. But what we have to do is translate them and then try to make a sensible story out of them. And the trend, it's just not a case of sitting down in Google Translate and seeing what pops out, because there's colloquialisms used and there's vernacular, and you can't. You just got to. I had an Italian friend have a go at translating one of them, and she couldn't do it. She said, "I'm Calabrese. I'm from the south. I had to take it to a nun."
Oh.
Get it done. Yeah. So it's not that simple. So that's a big aspect of it. What an idea I've had. I don't know if this will come to fruition, but with both Phantom's World and Giant Size Phantom, and maybe even Kid Phantom yet, I don't know. We may do the fourth issue towards the end of the year. Might be an annual, might be a double, triple size thing, extra thick, so that we can throw more in there.
Yeah.
Just get it out, you know.
Yeah.
And that's another thing that'll all your Christmases come at once. Just don't tell the wife.
That's right.
Yes. But just while I'm on that, when this first story arc of Kid Phantom's finished, which is I think issue 8, we're going to collect them all together into a trade and donors market. And there'll be some prose stories, some illustrated prose stories in there, and some games and puzzles and that kind of stuff as well. So that'll happen.
Nice. That'll be great. So, did you say that was going to go into bookstores as well? Yeah,
well, bookstores primarily, we hope.
Yeah.
The same kind of market that where you'll see books like Weirdos and Goosebumps. You know, those collections.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And again, obviously, you know better than me, but that's going to be perfect for that 8 to 12-year-old market.
I hope so. Yeah, and there's going to be all sorts of kids to address that market. He's going to get a coyote pup down the track, which he's going to call Diablo, and train him. So that'll be badge number 6 when it comes out.
Yeah, cool.
Nice.
Very good. Now, the other question I wanted to ask about Frews before I let Jermaine unload on Fanfare, just the covers. Now the covers of Frews is something that, for probably 5 or 10 years prior to you guys taking over, was something that was a real question mark that fans had. And since you've come on board, obviously they have really, really improved. A question that I sort of came up, and this is after listening to episode 33 and the last time that you talked to the ChronicleChamber team. How did your experience, Glenn, as a cover artist with Jim, and you've already talked about the way that he sort of drove you and the guidelines that he gave you. How has that experience driven the way that you work with the cover artists that you have been employing today, and you've got to be
in every way, I guess. I mean, look, all I'm doing is and we've got some amazing artists doing covers for us. So all I'm doing is really treating them the way that I would have liked to have been treated myself. It's that simple. They're big things with me. The covers are so important because that's what up there on the bookshelf, the shelf in the newsagents. You're competing with all this other stuff. You're competing with American comics, and it's got to compete. It's got to stand out amongst that. If the insides aren't aren't good, if the insides don't match what they see on the cover, well, that's then our job to do something about that, make the insides better. But you only get one crack at it. And it's what I was saying before, that the if you're repackaging a story that's been printed somewhere else in the world for the Australian market, at least pay them the courtesy of producing a new cover for them, so that you recognise that this is something which has been produced for Australia alone. And that's another policy. I'll have to get a big blackboard and put all these policies up one day.
You could do it as a like the Phantom Club had their what was it? There's 6 points of the club or something like that.
Yeah.
Something similar.
Guidelines.
Yeah.
So have you missed not doing Phantom covers, because you've only done only one this year so far, and that was the.
Well, I've got another one coming up soon, but I'd love to be doing them all. I would love to be doing stories, but I don't have time. It's just crazy.
Yeah. So that's a good question, I guess, which I think was on our run sheet somewhere. Have you enjoyed bringing in new Phantom stories created by Australians, but also created, I guess, by Frew for the Australian audience?
Oh yeah. It's been tremendous fun. Whether they're going to be successful or not is another story. And I mean, understand that, and this is where I do agree with Jim Shepherd's policy that producing something locally is a big expense, and you need to be able to justify that by with sales. So that's. Where having overseas distribution, especially, I mean, for example, something like collecting all of those Phantom by Gaslight stories into a trade paperback and getting it out into the American or the English European market would make a huge difference, because you've got people over there that would appreciate that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're just got to wait and see.
No worries. So, Dan, you got any more final questions on Frew?
No, well, I guess that perhaps as a linking question, perhaps it's you're a very busy man, Glenn, because you've got Frew and then you've got Fanfare. How do you go juggling Frew and Fanfare?
Well, when a juggler learns to juggle, he always drops something. And it is a real juggling act. It's I mean, there's a lot of occasions where I'm sitting down here at my desk at Frew knowing I should be doing something that needs to be done for Frew, and I've got to do something that needs to be done for Fanfare, because there's a guy over in Hong Kong and needs to get a pattern off to the moulding factory in China or something like that, and it's the kind of stuff that, because it's all happening in my head, I can't delegate it. I've just got to sit down and do it myself. Now, here's a good example, and here's a scoop. A couple of guys approached Merchant-wise a few months ago now, a couple of game designers, and wanted to take out a license for a Phantom game, a board game.
Oh,
wow. And so Merchant-wise put them onto us, and I went down and met with them, they're Melbourne guys, and really smart fellas. They've done some very successful Kickstarter campaigns for some of their games, and we're going to take out a license to do a Phantom board game, and that'll happen next year somewhere. But it won't be your simple, snakes and ladders Monopoly type thing. It'll be I don't know if you play them these days, but board games these days are kind of they're kind of like almost an extension of the Dungeons, Dragons, Magic card type games, where there's things that need to be gathered and accrued before you can do anything, and strategy is very important. So it's a well thought out game. The first one is based on the Pirates of the Red Dragon 3-parter. And what I want to do to make the thing more collectible is for each of the players in the game, I want to have a little figure that goes with it. So there'll be a Phantom and a Princess Sin, and
is she going to have clothes on?
All of the
or is that going to be the R-rated version?
That's the add-on. Well, what I'll do is I'll supply
the add-on or the takeoff?
to take off. Now, the figure will come with a small jar of red paint, so you can put it on yourself if you're offended. It's very hard when you're handshaking, but it'll. And what we'll probably do to sweeten the pot is do a trade paperback at the 3 stories to throw in there, which you'll be able to get later. But if you buy the game first, you get it quicker, and maybe even a new story like a sequel to the trilogy. Throw that into the book and make it an even sweeter deal.
Yeah,
nice. So this will be through Fanfare?
No, this will be through Frew.
Okay, sweet.
So I'm looking forward to it because it's going to be a whole lot of world for us if it works, and I think it will because these guys really know what they're doing. We then do we do more. We do the next box set, or we do an extension or an add-on or whatever, and with each one you get the little figure and you collect the figures.
Wow.
I mean, one of the things we want to do a triads trade paperback, if you remember that.
Yeah.
Yes.
That was a great story.
5-parter. Yeah. And filming's on a new cover for it. It looks fantastic.
With PH, of course.
That may yeah, everyone's closed, but that may be a game yet. I don't know. We just got to wait and see what happens. But one of the problems with these trade paperbacks too, and this is a problem with Heart of Darkness, is that even though they may have originally been printed in colour, like us now, you can got black and white files, and we don't really want to put them out in black and white. I think if you're going to go and buy a book or a trade paperback, I think it needs to be full colour throughout. So
because Heart of Darkness was black and white, wasn't it?
I think it was colour originally. I think when they reprinted it in the Chronica. Remember, it was in the 4 issues of the Phantom and Chronica. Chronica, if you can, yep. It was black and white then because that is a black and white book. But originally in the comic, it was colour.
Oh, okay.
So, just to go back to that the game idea. So, are you saying mid-year type thing? Is that when we can look forward to that?
And see, here we go. I shouldn't have said anything because it probably won't be mid-year.
No, look, the fact
a lot
that
of things have to happen
on the horizon is exciting. So, look, if you were to say mid-year 2020, people would be excited.
Yep, but it'll be great. It's a whole other area of like phantom fun that we're all going to have.
Awesome.
So regarding Fanfare, like, how does that fit with Frew now? Because obviously when you created Fanfare, you didn't have Frew. You weren't the publisher of Frew. So, where does that fit now?
Well, it just depends on what it is. I've got there's probably about another 7 or 8 different products which I've got approval for with through Merchant-Wise for Fanfare.
Yeah.
That will come out through Fanfare because it's because I've got the license already. So Frew has licenses for, well, apart from the comic, for posters and prints, the portfolios, now badges, which we had to get for Kid Phantom, and for the cards. So if anything that happens that fits within those licenses will come out through Frew.
Yeah. Okay. And then anything else, whether it's more jigsaw puzzles or statues and stuff, will come through Fanfare.
Exactly, yeah. And remember too that coming from Frew, that there is a general perception that because they've been around since 1948, that they're a trusted company and people are more happy to buy something from Frew, than anyone else. Yeah.
So will we see more jigsaw puzzles?
I think so. They went well. The next 2, I'm thinking of putting out the Phantom Goes to War cover as a jigsaw puzzle.
Nice.
Which would be another hard one to do because a lot of it's white. Yeah. And there's that famous Charlton, I think it's a Charlton cover, or is a King Features cover of the Phantom upside down in water, diving in water.
Oh, yes.
If you know the one.
Oh, the shark one.
Yeah, I can tell you
it's number 19.
It's a King.
Yeah, King. I think it was number 19.
I'm looking at it. Number 18.
Oh,
no, right. Number 19, you're right. Yep. Yep, exactly. Number 19.
Hang on, can you say that again?
That'd
Say that again, Glenn?
No, the recording was sort of dodgy through there, Jermaine. We didn't really get that.
I can't. I've got something caught in my throat. I don't.
Okay, cool.
And look, just while we're on it, if we're talking about bad puns like Renaissance, when we start introducing the Phantom with some of our other Frew stable of characters, it's going to be called the Frewniverse. So I just thought I'd throw that in. Sorry.
I don't mind that.
People here do, but anyway.
So talking about those type of little catch cries, we've noticed that the Fawkest has been getting a fairly decent run in at Frew, and another one that was cited today was the Happy Phantoming at the end of Dudley's messages from the publisher.
Yes, when Dudley first heard that, he burst out laughing, and he said, "I've got to use that."
The check's in the mail, Dudley.
Yeah. Are you going to sign off for that tonight?
Oh,
Sorry?
we always do.
Yeah,
Okay,
always.
Okay.
You can sign off as well if you want with that.
Well, okay.
Let's not get too ready to sign off. Though I'm very keen to hear about that the life-size bust. Now that is well beyond my earning capacity to be able to buy that, and I know it's a super limited edition.
I didn't even bother asking the wife for that one because I just knew what the answer was going to be.
Exactly right.
Have you seen one in the flesh yet?
No.
But I've seen photos of people standing next to them and that sort of thing. They just look fantastic in photos.
Yeah, they're amazing. But now let me say, I mean, I know it's $14.95 including freight and all of that, but we're not making a lot on them because they're costing me a bit. They come from Greece. They're done by what he calls himself a master sculptor. He works in film and TV, in special effects and prosthetics and all that sort of thing. But when I saw it, I just said, I've got to produce these, so I have to do it. What we're probably going to do is, in fact, Jermaine, you could have a word to some of your comic shops there in Perth. What we've done with some of the shops here in Sydney and also in Brisbane and Melbourne is sending some down on consignment so they can stick it in the store and use it as a focal point to display their other Phantom comics and stuff around it. And if they sell it, they pay us. So
okay, yeah, no, definitely. I'll talk to Keith
comic
about
shops
that one.
in Perth, yeah, and we'll get it sent over and no harm in getting it out there. I think in Brisbane it's going to Comics Etc. I think.
Yeah, that would make sense. That's our.
Which is Jamie who runs that.
Yep.
Yeah, who's a good guy. Who's really pro Frew, which is good.
So I guess that's a question we haven't really asked in the Frew one. So maybe we'll go on a tiny tangent. How's the relationship with comic books owners around Australia?
Comic shop owners.
Yeah, like with Frew.
Look, it's pretty good. Pretty good. They, I mean, by and large, they try, but it's Look, I've been a comic shop owner. I know how hard it is. It's a tireless job, and those guys work 24/7. It's just they've got to do it on the phone, getting stuff organised, and getting customs clearances and all of that. And so when they've got a whole stack of stuff in their store, and some of it's the tried and true colour American stuff that they know people want, it's easier for them to sell that than what it is to sell, something like a Phantom comic, which may not appeal to most of the people that come in there anyway. So one of the things that we've been asked by a few of the owners is give us some point of sale, give us some advertising, and we're starting to do that. That'll start happening soon.
Nice.
But what tends to happen with comic shop owners, because I know what they're like, is as soon as they get it, they stick it under the counter and sell it to the first Phantom that comes in for a ridiculous price,
Well, let me know when you do that so I can have a word with my comic books.
Oh, it's exactly the same thing.
But it's like that. Remember that big 6-foot cutout that Jim Shepard did?
Yeah.
that was supposed to be for newsagents. How many of those did you see in newsagents?
I never saw any over in Perth.
Yeah, not
Or
many at all.
WA.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're great. There's Egmont just recently did one. You know, I think it's
I've been trying to get one of them. Yeah, they're amazing.
I've actually got the, sorry, what were you going to say?
A photo of one of the big book fairs over there, I think.
Yeah,
I saw a photo of one that they had at one of the big book fairs.
Yeah, I've actually got the image. So you know, maybe we might have to. And then I've even found a company that prints them up for about $60 or something like that. 60,
Yeah. Getting them printed is not a problem. Yeah, but yeah.
So there was another version released in Norway. I think it was back in the 80s.
Henrik Salstrom illustration.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
The one in the 80s, which had a devil and a monkey man, or a monkey, and what he was holding was a satchel of the comics and stuff. That looks pretty awesome.
Yep. I mean, I went into it's just an example, a shop in Melbourne when I was looking around. Pretty upmarket shop, really nicely laid out. It just looked and felt great. It was run by a couple of women. What was it called? Can't remember. But no, they didn't sell Phantoms. No Phantoms there. They had a box of back issues tucked under the counter or something. But they had a whole section with kids comics, and they had everything. And I would love to put a like a Paul Mason skull cave with the kids' Phantoms and put stacks of comics inside the eye holes as a point of sale, and approach people like that and say, you know, this is a kid's comic. You really need to let people know about it. You know,
so point of sales is
yeah. So we're looking into all of that.
Yeah.
But you know,
again, it's money.
Again, yeah, and you've got to be careful who you give it to. You've got to see someone like, as I said before, James at Comics Etc., who's trying his best to push it. You'd send him something because you know it'd be used well, and it would help to drive his sales. So.
Yeah, well, I know Keith from Quality Comics he's my local comic guy, and I know he actually made his own little Phantom little cutout thing drawn up on a bit of card and stuck from the ceiling and stuff. And he's he releases a lot of, so he's got a lot of the local stuff, but he's also got like a lot of the more obscure stuff like the Asterix and Tintins and all that type of stuff as well. So it's a fairly decent comic book store.
Yep.
So
it reminded me of something else.
Okay, yeah.
When I talked before about next issue of Giant Size having 3 Angelo Todaro stories, that's going to be called an artist showcase issue or something like that. I forget the term, but there's going to be a few of those in the regular comic next year where we'll have a 100-page issue focusing on one particular artist, and hopefully have some stories in there that hasn't been seen before. Another good example is, if you remember, Nord Westad, the Norwegian artist who did some work for Fantomen, who sadly died last year. His work is amazing, and
it's also his painted stuff in the 2018. No, remember he did that painted story in the 2018.
Did you know he I forget what happened, but he lost a leg in a car accident, and then he got some kind of rare disease and lost his right arm, and then taught himself how to draw with his left hand. And what you saw in that annual was done with his left hand.
Wow,
which was just insane. Yeah.
I actually commissioned one through him, and then like a couple of months before he passed away. From all reports, he was a really good bloke as well. Yeah.
I'm in touch with his brother. So it won't be like a tribute issue per se, not like the Paul Ryan tribute issue, but it'll be a collection of stuff that hasn't been published yet in English. So that's one of them. And by the end of next year, there'll be 3 Mike Manley stories that haven't been published by us. So we'll whack those into another artist showcase. As long as
Any chance for a full colour Don
something to put
Newton?
in. Yeah, well, I think there's only 2 stories of his that haven't been published by Frew, I think. I thought it was 3, but there's 2. So yeah, we'll do those. I don't know if we'll do them in colour, because I think we have access now to the original black and white. Nicer, because the Charlton colour was never
Pretty
great.
poor.
Yeah.
Apparently,
you used to miss by about half an inch.
Yeah. From what I heard, Don Newton wasn't too happy with the colours from Charlton either.
Oh, no one was.
How could you?
No, I remember seeing. I can't remember what it was. It might have been on his Facebook, on his tribute Facebook page. But there was the original cover that he did, and then what it looked like in a comic, and it was just chalk and cheese.
Yeah, his work is astounding. Sense for it. It was really quite moody. It looked like Druid for black and white. Anyway.
Yeah, so one other thing we have to ask you about fanfare, and I know you've probably been waiting for this one, and we have to ask, because we always get asked ourselves, and I know you always get asked, is the trading cards. And I'm sorry I have to ask you about this one, Glenn.
Okay. So for people who have come in late, this is the gallery.
Everyone has come in, has now come in, and only just recently that there were some people that I had to wait for. Well, you wouldn't believe, over a year for some of them. But anyway, they've all come in. Yep. Those flaky artist types, you know what they're like. And now I've got to sit down and just do the backs of all the cards, all the bios. So that's what I'm doing this Christmas, New Year.
Oh, is this the work you're taking away with you?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, I'm very sorry to hear that you have to do that, but gee, Glenn, we really want you to do that.
I don't think you are.
So, could you hear how false I was? Could you?
Yeah. It didn't fool me for a second.
Oh, we're just so keen to see them because.
You
and me both, you know.
Yeah, for sure.
Because you're probably just as eager. Because this has been. Because there's 2 stories, 2 sets that have.
So it's 30 years in the making, really, isn't it?
Yeah, and look, I've got to say, there's some fantastic stuff in there. And Graham Nolan's finished off the story that he started in the first series. And it looks just great. It's Chuck Dixon has written it again, and it's funny. But when I if you remember the first story, the Phantom gets
shot,
bushwhacked by this. It looks like I think it's a South African hunter type who pushes him off a waterfall. I think that's the end of him. And at the end of the story, he's rescued by the Bandar Pygmy, of course, who wrap him up in all sorts of herbs and spices and nurse him back to health. And when I asked Chuck Dixon and Graham Nolan if they wanted to do a sequel, I said, yeah, sure. I thought, how on earth is he going to... I only had 8 pages. How is Chuck Dixon going to have the Phantom track down this South African guy who could be anywhere in the world and exact vengeance? We have to go through that whole... detection thing, tracking him down and following clues and all that, and he didn't. He just stuck him in, I think, Johannesburg, first panel, and off we go. He basically assumed that, okay, we know he's going to find him. Yeah. Here he is. Let's just start the story here, and it's just straight into it. It's just great, just really clever.
So, can you tell us a little bit about it? Like what? Obviously, we've got the 8 pages. Are they going to be? Is the story going to be back and front like the gallery series?
Yeah. It is the gallery series part 2. That's exactly what it is. Yeah. So it's front and back.
Yeah.
And then the rest are just illustrations from Phantom artists all over the world. And that's the good thing about this one as compared to the first one. The first one was illustrations of the Phantom by famous comic artists. Yeah. Since the first one, there has been a whole lot of people publishing the Phantom, Moonstone, Dynamite, Hermes, etc., that I was able to use people who had previously drawn the Phantom professionally in some way for all of the rest of the cards. So all of the rest of the illustrations are from Phantom artists.
That's unreal because that mirrors something I heard you say, I think, yesterday when I re-listened to episode 33 of the podcast, which was
33
2 years ago. Yeah, it was something that you were excited about then. I'm so pleased that this is finally coming to fruition for you.
Yeah, me too.
So would you be doing a sequel to the other trading card, or has this one?
Let me just say probably.
Probably. Nice.
Yeah.
And then
is that
follow-up.
Is that non-committal enough?
That's good.
It
That's
is.
good.
But I guess what's another 30 years for the next series?
Yeah, exactly.
And what about
the next the third series to the two dynamic series that came out would need to resolve that story, which has got the Phantom and Moriarty jumping from the London Bridge or the Tower Bridge, whichever it was. So that would happen, and there's
the phone cards.
without going into too much detail, all of the other cards are some of them are done already, so it's not going to be as far away as what you may think it will be.
So what are your plans for the cards, Glenn? Are they going to go back into... Because I remember I was working in retail. It was my first job as a newsagent clerk in the mid-90s when these cards came out. Are you planning on getting them back into newsagents in the same way that you did at the time? Or a bit more specialist now? Or?
No, well, they'll go to comic shops, but it'll go out through Gordon and Gotch, who did the first cards when they came out. So it'll be distributed with the comics to news agencies. And, of course, they'll be available online from Frew and Fanfare and at conventions.
Oh, that's
so how many boxes are you doing?
Oh, lots. One of the things I won't be doing is not for the foreseeable future selling single ones. I don't want people ringing up saying, I missed card number 76, can I buy it from you?
Yeah.
Fair enough, I understand that. But at some point, when it's all died down, I'll get a chance to and sort them out. I will be able to do that.
Yeah.
To some degree. I don't know yet. It's just too hard to say.
Well, look, it's a different era, and this is one of the things I'm really excited about is we're now in a Facebook and a social media era where people are going to be able to post what they've got spare and what they need online and
exactly.
post them around Australia.
At the end of the day, they're trading cards. That's what you do with them.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll all be back in the schoolyard again, where we were doing this over our lunch breaks, but still doing it over our lunch breaks, but now at our desk. And
then and the big body would get all of them.
So are you going to be? I'm assuming there's specials. There's like gem cards. There's
I think I posted the specials. I think there was
So all that details on Fanfare. Yep.
Yep. And the top chase card, which would be the Cyberry card, is basically one in every 2 boxes.
Okay. So and I'm assuming what you'll be able to buy through Fanfare and stuff will be like a sealed box?
Yeah, you'll be able to buy a box. You'll be able to buy a pack, a box, or even a carton if you're crazy enough to. Although what we'll probably do with the carton is, and they used to do this a lot with the sports cards, is you do a separate. I think they did this with if you remember the original Phantom Country cards, the postcards.
Yeah.
I think you got those. You got a set of those in a carton. So if you buy a carton, you'll get 6 special cards, which you can't get any other way.
Okay. So do you have prices for?
I've just gone broke.
Yeah.
No,
not prices. I'm just trying to think how much money do I need to save up to get a carton.
But the people would get a couple of cartons in. Just those 6 special cards available to their Phantom customers, I'm sure.
Yeah. No, and there will be a binder?
Oh, yeah. Could have a binder. I don't know. It'll be a 9 pocket page binder. although when the third series for the regular dynamic series comes out, I'm toying with the idea of doing that as just to keep continuity as the little 6-pocket binder that they brought out back then. They're just trying to source those at the moment.
That makes sense. No worries. So do you have any other fanfare items you would like to tease us with?
I was still waiting on these bookends. I've had all sorts of problems with sculpting over in China. It's gone back and forwards a few times, and I had to get someone here to do it in the end and send a mould over. But they're a series of bookends, which you buy them one at a time, so you can mix and match. In other words, you can buy one bookend, and when you find another one that comes along which you want to put up there. But the first one is the famous Phantom coming through the window, the as you were, gentlemen. And there'll be a girl Phantom one in there somewhere, and they're about just over a foot tall, I guess.
Okay, so they're decent. They're actually bookends.
Yeah.
So will they be done in like a adult version or more of a kiddie type of version to get in that?
An adult version.
Yeah.
An adult version. I will. I'll send you one. I've got one. I've got a file here. I can send you, Jermaine. Yeah.
Okay. So that will be up on the fanfare website eventually.
Yeah. Pretty soon, I hope. It's just waiting to hear back from the guys in China.
No worries.
So there's that. There's another couple of jigsaws, maybe. I'd like to do. I don't know if you noticed on the barbecue apron. There's a little ticket that said cave gear.
Yep.
Yes.
And what cave gear is just like a little sub line from fanfare, which is stuff which is made for, in particular, the man cave. And so there'll be some blokey type products coming out, and I want to do a bar runner. And the original idea was having with some spot illustrations of the Phantom and whoever, a map of Bengali and all the landmarks. But after seeing Jamie's Tripitch poster, I'm thinking of now doing the bar runner as that, because that would look fantastic.
I was literally about to say that should be a bar runner.
Yeah. So that'll probably happen soon for the man cave.
Wow.
So yeah, and there's other things too, which I won't say anything about until they're closer to getting manufactured. One of the things that you'll probably be able to pick up at Supernova next year from Frew will be it's called a messenger bag. So it's like a big satchel type thing with a strap that goes over the shoulder, and it's just got Phantom Comics front and back, and there'll be a Frew logo on it. And the buckle, it's a metal buckle, is actually the belt buckle with the stripes and the skull.
Oh, nice.
So yeah, we'll have that at Supernova, but it's not going to be cheap. It's going to be like around the $50 mark or something like that. But it's pretty sturdy. And basically, if you're going to go there and buy a whole stack of stuff, you need to get one of these to put it all in.
So it's going to be interesting seeing a lot of these blokey blokes being hip with a man bag. So I'm looking forward to seeing someone like a John or John Cookson or Paul Maloney and stuff like that.
I think they're all
sporting
going to
a man bag.
They're all going to change the way they walk.
Yeah. So me and Dan had a little bit of fun coming up with a couple of ideas we wanted to pitch to you, just a totally random, because you do have your option on the website that if people have got ideas to send them through to you. So a couple that I had was the statues and the articulated figurines. And Dan, what was yours?
Well, hearing what I've heard, I think this is more of a Frew idea, given the licenses, rather than a fanfare idea. Because it's posters and prints, but I'd love to, and you've just mentioned a Phantom Country bar runner. I'd love to see that as a print or a poster, and also a Phantom family tree that would be that'd be something that I think a lot of fans would get behind.
That would have to be a Forkism.
Yeah, no, Lee Falk only.
Version, of course,
Don't dare bring anyone else into that.
So, which version of Fork family would you do? Because didn't Fork have like the first 3 Phantoms marrying the same girl?
No, bring them all into the family tree. It's surely not that hard.
It was a very close family, I've heard.
Yeah, because you had Marabella married to the first and the second Phantom, I think it was. So
there's ways to represent that. You can do it.
It's a very awkward Christmas.
They've been done. The Swedes have done it, and the Finns have done it. But
the Australians haven't done it, Glenn. That's my point.
Well, Dietmar did it with his prints, with his series of prints in one of his newsletters. I remember him doing a doing a Lee Falk family tree, but it's not complete. That's the problem.
Yeah.
There's big gaps there,
and there's contradictions as well.
Yeah. And something like that would have to be illustrated. You'd need pictures of the Phantoms and wives that you're talking about to sell it as a poster.
Of course.
So yeah, it's. Could I dare try and sell something that isn't complete to a Phantom fan? My God.
So in other words,
my question is that you've got to complete it for me, Glenn.
But it wouldn't be accepted by you because it's not a
get me the
newspaper
information
artist.
and send it to me.
All right. I'll work on that.
Yeah.
But Dan, if Glenn completes it, it still won't be accepted by you because it's not done by a newspaper or by Lee Falk.
If I could complete it using the Egmont canon, it'll work. But then I'd have to maybe put black squares over their eyes so people don't, confuse them with the real.
Well, you could do the, you know how like you have got the magic eye or something, like if you squint, you see a different version.
Yeah.
So seeing all the Forkers and all the Forkists are really old and all that, it'll just be one different one, and then all the younger readers, you can just like look at it in a different version, and we'll see the complete canon.
We'll see what we want to see.
Then we'll get sued for giving people epileptic fits.
So before we start wrapping up, Glenn, is there anything else you wanted to just quickly touch base on, or let us know, or say thanks to, or anything like that?
I'm pretty sure I've covered everything, and really just thanks to the team here who are just doing an amazing job.
Well, I think we all echo that. Like, it's Frew, us, we're all thankful that Frew's still around. Otherwise, we'd have to learn how to read Swedish or Norwegian.
Well, Dan wouldn't. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's we are thankful, I guess, to you, to Glenn, Renee, and Dudley for keeping up the tradition. We are enjoying discussing stuff, and people are actually listening to us discuss stuff that you guys are doing as well. So there's definitely interest with the fandom in this modern era with tablets and movies and digital stuff and all that. So I guess for myself, I would like to thank you, Glenn, for for keeping my addiction fed with Frew.
Keeping the flame burning bright.
That's it. I don't think my wife wants to speak to you again, though. I think she's a little bit over me spending all my money.
That's fair.
No, she's not like that at all. As all the wives, I'm sure, will agree that they would rather us spending money on fandom than other pursuits.
Yeah, than going down the pub.
That's it.
And throw it into a poker machine or whatever.
That's it. Unless it was the fancy poker machine, of course.
That's a whole
still
other
a moral conflict for me, to be honest.
No, that's a whole other podcast, that one. That's podcast 69, I think, that one. No, you've done that. 73.
So for myself, Glenn, I'd like to say thanks, and I'm sure Dan would like to say thanks as well, so I'll let him have a bit of a go. Yeah,
Glenn, before I do, I've probably got two finalising questions, I suppose, around probably the last 2 years that you've had at Frew. first thing is, what do you think is your proudest achievement in the 2 years or the almost 2 years that you've had there? What's the thing that you can really say, wow, I'm really pleased that I was able to do that?
Look, well, right now putting out this trade paperback, that to me is for Frew is quite historic. It's the Phantom Primer. If someone says, well, what's the Phantom all about? You just grab this and hand it to them and say, they take that away and read it. And give it back because it cost me $25 or whatever. But that's the proudest moment, and quite a it's like any of the previous regimes at Frew, going all the way back to the 40s, ever doing.
Yeah.
And so
hopefully it's going to open up a whole other market for us. We hope.
Yes. Yeah, and we do too. Second question then, as a follow-up, what do you see as your biggest challenge coming ahead?
Hello, have we lost Glenn?
Shit, I think we might have.
Didn't want to answer that question.
Glenn? Oh, that was going so well. I think he's done the whole thing from the car park. I honestly do. Okay. So, obviously the Skype has just challenged us there right at the end. I would have loved to talk to Glenn about what he saw as the biggest challenge ahead for Frew in the coming years. For whatever reason, Skype's dropped out or the phone battery's died or whatever. I'd just love to say a huge thank you to Glenn for the time that he afforded us tonight. He told us before the podcast recorded that he's off on holidays tomorrow. He's flying overseas in the morning, and for him to give us the time tonight for this podcast is pretty special. I feel very lucky to have spoken to him tonight, Jermaine. What do you think?
Very lucky. There's two questions I would have loved to ask him. One, how did the turducken turn out yesterday? He was having a turducken at a Thanksgiving party. I wanted to know how that was. And the second one was a follow-on from episode 33, which we both picked up when we re-listened to it.
Yes.
And that was when he laid claim that he was going to give up collecting the Frews because it was going to be near impossible for him to do. And he was
He's
just
never going to
get
a full set.
He's never going to get a full set. So the question that we both had down of what we would love to ask him, and I don't know, we'll just have to get him on again maybe, is did he manage to get a full set when he brought Frew?
Oh, I guarantee you he's got a full set. And what that has suggested to both of us is the only way we're going to get a full set is if we buy the company. And given there's no way that's going to happen, I think we've...
maybe we just need to get adopted by some of these people that have got full sets, like, Glenn or Renee or something like that.
Yeah.
So, so now there's a couple of questions that I would have loved to ask Glenn, but these things happen.
But didn't we have, it's a shame that the call has dropped out, honestly, 5 minutes before we were going to finish anyway, but... thank you so much to Glenn for the time that he's given us and being so open. He's just an open book when it comes to what Frew's plans are, what Fanfare's plans are, what he's got in the works, what the challenges are, and while that was a question that I wanted to say for the end, I think we got a bit of an idea of that as we went through. It's just
getting the next gen, getting into bookstores and stuff like that, and so I'm sure that would probably be, and probably I'm sure that would have been his answer to your question, but yeah. I liked,
you go.
Sorry, you go.
No,
I was just going to say what I'll let you go this time, mate.
No, I was just saying, what is so great is that someone who's obviously a fan and a devoted fan and has been a creator, is now the publisher. We've got someone who's so invested in the character, who just wants to provide the absolute very best for us, to the point where he's in there on a Sunday night. His phone would have cut out at about 11:45 on Sunday night, talking to us. He's just so devoted to the whole thing. I think we're all benefiting from it, and so grateful that that's happening.
Yes, definitely agree with that. I think it's, and we've made mention of it before. It's definitely, we're riding the bubble at the moment. We're riding the wave at the moment, and it's, good things can only come of it, and I'm looking forward to what's next from Frew.
Yeah, and the one thing that I've really got from the conversation is that I just would love King Features to look around and go, well, how could we make this go a bit more global, and to give Frew a footprint into India, for instance. That's the potential consumer audience there is just. What have we got? 25 million people in Australia, and it's 1 billion people in India. Like, extrapolate fan fans.
Yeah. I've read reports that India is going to be the largest population, surpassing China, in the next, 10, 20 years or whatever it was, mainly because they don't have the one-child policy like China does. And like you said, the Phantom has a footprint in India. It's
and even if it's 1%, it's going to just explode Frew's audience. Yeah, you would love to see them be able to expand into that market.
Yes, definitely. Like you, if you look at, when we've talked about this a bit with Kevin Patrick, is it Patrick?
Patrick.
Just total mind blank.
Yep.
In one of, 2-3 episodes ago?
2, yep.
Oh, actually, I think it's 3 because we've got the...
No, Kevin Patrick and the one we haven't released yet because I haven't edited it yet, and then this one.
Yeah, no, and the movie one, remember?
No, the movie one was before Kevin.
Oh, yeah, it was too. We just recorded it afterwards.
Yes, that's right.
So the fact that, he put his study on there, and we touched upon it briefly there, but, they're so hungry for the Phantom over there. They're, these Egmont stories that have been published over there, they've been republished like literally probably 10 times, and people are still buying them. Yep. So, there's definitely a hunger for it over there. So, if Frew could get into India alone, that would be, it could be an even bigger wave that could be coming for the Phantom.
Yep. Oh, and look, and we can see the fringes of that. I'm sure that Glenn and Renee and Dudley, you can hear it in Glenn's voice when he talks about it. He would really love to push for that. That could be it. That could be the golden egg if they could get there.
Definitely. I'm looking forward to some of the items and stuff that they're releasing, like some of the
card game. Oh, Joe, if you're listening to, you should be listening to this. We've already teased it. I've already teased it to Joe on our Messenger chat group. He's going to love the idea of a Phantom card game, and so many of us will. Collectors are going to just want to grab packs and put it on shelves, but people like Joe and others are going to want to play that and get it out there. That's just a fantastic revelation.
Yeah, especially with a strong character like Princess Sin as well. And we kind of joked about her clothes attire, but she is, and she's got. Remember how when we did the podcast, we actually talked about some of the characters in there that we didn't really get to spend much time on, like the ninjarettes or whatever they're called, the female ninjas. Yep. Like you've got that. Another female gang in a sense that the fandom gets to battle, and you know, you got Diana, you got the Lager involved in that whole story. The fact that you could have, you know, reprint the story as a trade paperback, you know, it's got potential. And I guess what's good is the fact that it's another company who, in a sense, approached Frew. Or,
yeah, exactly.
You know,
they've come forward.
Yeah. And I think that's a good sign, because it means that other companies are seeing that it's, you know, that the fandom is a character that could be that they could make money off. And obviously other companies have to make money, so that's their main priority. But they're seeing the fandom as a profitable character like they did back in the 90s. And, you know, that's, you know, only going to make Frew's job better with what they sell and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, but I'm sure we could probably talk another hour from the stuff we just listened. But
it's going to take some processing, all of the stuff we just heard. And I think some of the best bits from Glenn was when we stopped asking questions and let him start talking. Every time we asked him a question, I feel like we stopped an answer that should have kept coming.
Totally agree. So thanks again, Glenn, for your time tonight.
Yes.
I'm sorry we couldn't say happy phantoming at the end with us. From the sounds of it, I think Stephen was the one that created that one. The happy phantoming at the end, so I'm sure Stephen will lay claim to that as well. So thank you, Glenn, for joining us tonight. Thank you, Dan, as well. It was a great time.
Yeah, no, I really enjoyed it, and I'm really going to have to get a focus on getting this. It would be lovely. It's 17 days away. It would be nice to get this out exactly 2 years after the date, but we're going to try and get this out before the 20th of December.
Yeah, because we'll have more podcasts to release by then.
Fingers crossed.
Yes. So I know what you'll be doing this week, Dan. You got a couple of podcasts to get onto. So,
yes.
So thank you everyone for listening. Big shout out again to all our listeners. We thank you. Thank you to all the Patreon people, purchasers, supporters, whatever. What are they called? Supporters?
Patrons.
Yep. Okay, so thank you for them. As normal, you can find us on ChronicleChamber.com. We've got heaps of ways. We've got all the social media. We've got the Reddit, emails, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, etc., etc., etc.
I'd love to give a special plug to the email, because I think maybe our fans are emailers, not social medias. ChronicleChamber@gmail.com. Just send us an email. We'll read it out. Why not?
Yeah, and again, the offer's there. If you ever want to chuck in a review for a comic and all that, you can always email it through, and we will include it with our reviews on the podcast.
Yeah.
Don't forget, you've got the P3, which is the Patreon Phantom Preservation, which has got a whole heap of cool stuff in there. So don't forget about that. Then you've got also, you can subscribe to us on iTunes and also on your Android device. So basically what this does is you don't have to see the message on Facebook or on the website. It will straight away download onto your phone or at work or, you know, your device. So in that way you'll wake up or you'll be at work and you'll come back and there'll be the episode downloaded ready for you to listen to, which just makes it a little bit easier so you won't miss out on it. So shout out to that. Again, thank you, Glenn. Dan, thank you. Stephen, you missed out, buddy. But until next time, happy phantoming.
Happy phantoming.
500.
Good. So I'm just messaging him now. I appreciate it and have a great holiday. / time to finish that card set. Winky face. All seriousness, have fun, and thank you again. No worries. I'm not sure what happened with that one, but yeah, I reckon his phone went flat and he probably locked himself out of his warehouse, so he's probably out of the office. But yeah, no. When Glenn's he's just back now. He's just messaging me now. What's he saying? Ran out of juice, like I said. So his battery went flat.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Glenn said that he's going to have to say the happy phantoming at the end of next giant size.
Fair enough.
That's pretty cool that it was a nod to us that Dudley loved it.
Yeah, no, that is cool. That is cool.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was Steve who said it.
Oh, I don't know now. It's one of those things. It's just naturally evolved. So,
Bit like the Focus.
yeah, it's hopefully we're part of the journey.
500 years ago, he washed ashore the sole survivor of a shipwreck, and upon the skull of the man who killed his dad, he said, I'm mad, I must eradicate piracy, injustice and cruelty, and all my sons will follow me, so evildoers will believe that this man cannot die. The Phantom! The ghost who walks. The Phantom! Enemies beware, the Phantom's always there, but you won't mind the Phantom.